Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Oil and Gas Rundown here at King Operating. My name is Rachel Griffith. I'm an SVP here, and I will be your host for today. Of course, we are always excited to join you on these lives where we get to cover some different topics about oil and gas, usually a little bit of news, and also some practical information about the oil and gas industry and what all we do here at King Operating. So my lovely panel of gentlemen are here today. Jay Young, our CEO and founder, who's usually with us, is actually not available today. He is traveling, so we are missing him today. And Jay, if you get to watch this, we missed you, and we look forward to having you back next time. But today we are going to dive into some news. We've got Steve, our Chief Operations Officer, with us. Ryan Gares, who is our EVP of Engineering, and we have Tom Gray, one of our SVPs who has been with King for 21 years, joining us today. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks, Rachel.
Absolutely. So today, okay, Steve, I want to start with you, and I want to get into a little bit of the news, of course. So oil and gas prices are both climbing today, which that's good news. So oil is up, natural gas futures jumped close to $4 after sitting at nearly $3.20 just a month ago. What's driving that increase as we head into November?
Well, the way gas prices are done, they're future prices. So the 320 that we saw was kind of a close at the end of October for November futures. So, and the way that is determined, there's a lot of different factors that goes into that speculation, but most of it is that most of our weather patterns at this particular time are fairly normal. So as they were looking into the month of November, that's why gas prices were staying kind of in the lower echelon. Now, as we move into November, and now we're actually getting quotes on what's deliveries in December. We're starting to move into the colder months, and so they're building that into the price. So yes, we're going to start seeing colder months. Now, if the months become a lot colder, we'll see prices go much higher than that. If they become below that to where we have a warmer winter or a warmer November, then we'll see prices in December maybe something less than that. On the oil side today, part of the big impact of what's going on in oil is first of all, that there was an announcement this morning that our stockpiles were less than what the EIA was anticipating, and so that basically gave us a bump in oil price. Other factors that have occurred. We started seeing an uptick in oil price, earlier this week, and a lot of that was kind of the nervousness of what was going to be going on, on the geopolitical side. With Trump talking to China, part of those fears are, they feel like that's going to potentially go well. So that actually kind of helps stabilize the prices. And so that's really right now. The main impact this morning was really pretty much that announcement, because again, natural gas is kind of it's a local commodity. It's not really traded as much on the world markets as we go into LNG and things of that nature. That will change, but right now it's kind of like local weather patterns and things of that impact it. But on the oil side, we are going to be affected by not only what's occurring here, but what's occurring overseas.
Yeah, perfect. I know you touched kind of on the effects of weather mixing things up a little bit here as we get a little bit colder, and we'll kind of see what the winter has in store for us. And that's always, very different sometimes year to year. So I guess that will change up what we see along the way. So I'm hoping it's not going to be too cold, Steve.
Well, we've had pretty mild weather, so some of us are kind of ready for cold weather.
Oh, I see where you're at. I see.
Yeah.
I got up this morning and opened the door, and I was like, oh my gosh, no way.
Yeah, well, that was my wife last night as she was making sure that the heat would kick on this morning, which we basically have to be in a $71 world or 71 degree world in my household, whether it's hot or cold. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'll definitely can be contributing to the natural gas prices if it gets cold enough for sure. 100%, 100% driving that baby up. So thank you so much, Steve. Anything else, like any news that you want to touch on before I shift over to Ryan? Anything interesting?
No, I mean, like I said, I mean, there's pricing wise, I mean, it's always a little bit, there's definitely a lot of unknowns and a lot of uncertainties, but I think, with things that are going on, with what Trump has been doing overseas, like it or not, I think it's going to help stabilize a lot of this, and again, more of the normal factors will kind of set in as far as how prices will be. So, I think we're in a pretty good place right now.
All right, good to hear. And I just want to mention to everybody, please feel free if you're watching on LinkedIn or YouTube to definitely share your comments. If you have questions for us, you can put those in the comments or questions section, and we would love to hear from you. And you can always visit us at kingoperating.com as well and reach out there. We would love to hear from you. So, Ryan, we are going to talk a little bit about some different terms and some different processes in oil and gas today, right? So I want to talk about words that to you incredible gentlemen who are very seasoned in oil and gas understand, but to some people, these words like what is flush production and what is the process of after you drill a well. I mean, some of us just thought you drill it and here comes all the oil and gas. It's going to come right out. And like you see in the movies. So tell us a little bit, Ryan, what is flush production? What happens after you drill a well, like in the Bivens? You get in there, you frack it, and then what?
All right. Well, let me see if I can explain that, Rachel. And thanks for doing your part for natural gas demand too.
Yes,
I'm excited.
Absolutely.
To
Absolutely.
So when we talk about flush production, first of all, it's a term that's used in multiple different ways at different times when we're producing wells. But I think what you're referring to is initial flush production, or why does a well come on? And generally, the norm for a lot of the wells, especially the ones that we produce today, with the kinds of permeability and the sorts of reservoir that are commonly drilled, why do they come on with, normally a fairly steep initial decline and then a flattening decline later in their life? And that's really, it's kind of a complicated answer, but to simplify it, there are a number of factors, but three of the main factors are that, first of all, when you first turn a well on, you have a very high initial pressure that begins to decline very, very quickly near wellbore when we turn these wells on to production. Also, you have effects from the stimulation. So when we frack a well and we pump a lot of fluid and sand and whatever into the well, we're pressuring that well up, particularly near wellbore, and that pressure takes time to dissipate, whether it be equalizing into the formation or whether it be when we turn the well on and then we flow the well. And then finally, we're still in a transient flow regime. We haven't reached pseudo steady state flow. So as the pressure begins to drop further and we start to withdraw oil and gas from further and further out in the reservoir, the well behaves differently. So that causes the well to decline at a different rate early in its life than it does in the middle of its life or at the end of its life, at least in the sorts of wells that we're drilling now. And we also use that term a little bit after a well has been shut in and worked on for some reason. And during that time, the near wellbore area repressurizes from the fluid or from the pressure that's further out in the formation. It begins to equalize and it repressurizes. Again, it has to do with what's going on near the wellbore versus what's going on further from the wellbore.
Okay, it's very interesting. So when you're stimulating the well, you're basically putting all the water and sand into it, yeah?
Yep.
And then it's gonna flow back.
The water, yes. Mm-hmm.
You're removing the water.
Yep.
And then what? Then you start to get hydrocarbons.
Yeah. So then we start to get hydrocarbon and every formation's different. Some formations you get oil and gas very early in flowback, and others you have to recover a relatively, speaking anyway, high percentage of what we call the load water. So you may have to recover 10 or 20% even in some wells and some formations, right? So before you get up to your peak rate. So early on, it's not uncommon to make 100% water while we're flowing back what we refer to as the load from the well. And then slowly over time, we get more oil and or gas and less water. But with the really large frac jobs that we use today, the wells make some amount of load water for a very long time compared to older stimulation techniques that we used to use.
Interesting. And that's also where you might use the pump, right? Where you're removing the water, you're actually pumping the water out so that you remove all of it and then the hydrocarbons flow. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes. Some wells flow for a little while on their own without any kind of artificial lift. Some flow for a long time. Some don't flow at all. Yeah, a lot of times, like you said, and in fact, in all cases, at some point, with the exception of some gas wells, you're going to have some sort of a lift mechanism on the well or in the well.
Is there a specific well that you remember being extra difficult? Like to get it to flow? Just like
that's a
put you on the
great
spot,
question. Yeah, boy, you did put me on the spot. I can remember having some wells that were a real challenge in the past. I probably need a little time to think about. I can think of one in Canada that was a real pain to get it to flow. It did, but yeah, they can be. It's possible for them to be difficult.
I kind of love the way you're talking about wells in like I don't know, very individualistic, like they have personalities.
Kinda. Yeah. I mean, in a way, I guess. Yeah. I mean, they're all I mean, every reservoir, every formation is different. There is absolutely no doubt about that. Different permeability, different types of rock, different pressures. You mix all of that up, and yeah, different reservoirs certainly can behave very, very differently.
Yeah, no, that I love that. It's very interesting. And we've talked some about that with Mark, our geologist, and all the different types of reservoirs, basins, all these different things, source rocks and all of that. But just the way you talked about it today was very interesting as each well seems to have its own personality. So I love that, Ryan.
And Rachel, I have a friend that they own their own company and they named their wellbores after their wives.
Hey.
And they all each had their own personality as well. So, which could be, the one that didn't make a good well, that did not go over very well with that wife. But anyway, like I said, they are very personal.
Yeah. I would really not like to be named after like a bad well. Yeah, I'm like, oh great, thanks, honey. Appreciate that. I'm gonna bring Tom Gray in on this conversation because Tom, I know that you've been in the oil and gas industry for 3 decades as well. So you and I have talked about some different wells. What do you think, Tom? You got a favorite well out there?
Yeah, we had a well in Scurry County that it was either the Kate or the Desi. I can't remember which one, but it free flowed 1,200 barrels a day for almost 6 months straight.
Wow.
And I happened to go out there the day after the line from the wellhead to the tank battery, didn't explode, developed some kind of a fracture in it or something. Who knows what happened? But I went out there the day after, and they said I wasn't allowed to go back out there again. But it was the day after. They thought I was voodoo in the well or something. So, but yeah, that's probably the biggest well that King has ever drilled. That was either the Desi or the Cape. Both those wells were really good wells. You guys may know about those wells. I don't know.
You guys ever heard about those wells? Tom's been here a long time. Tom's like
I think it was the Cape.
the ancient of days.
Yeah.
But Tom's been here forever. Tom, tell us since your time, I mean, working in oil and gas, you've been in all different sectors. I mean, what are some of the things you've seen change from 3 decades ago to now?
It would have to be drilling and fracking techniques since way back in the day. You know, when I started, we were just drilling shallow horizontals in the Barnett Shale. I really got it started offshore when I was a youngster, kind of a green hand out there. But when I really got into the oil and gas business, we were drilling just vertical wells, and then you know that progressed to horizontal drilling. And at that time, you know, I've seen videos of wells you'd start going horizontal and they would just pigtail and you wouldn't know where they were going. I've seen some videos from Russia where the drill bit actually comes up to the ground level a mile away or whatever. You guys have probably seen those videos, but the advent of, you know, first of all, horizontal drilling. I mean, nowadays it's almost, these guys will probably laugh at me, but to me, it's almost like a video game. I mean, you're actually steering that thing and staying in zone with different mud weights and so forth. And gosh, now they're drilling wells out, you know, 5-6 mile horizontal wells. And I remember when we would get, you know, when I first started here, we were drilling out wells, you know, 250, 500 feet, and now we're into miles. And then the second thing is, you know, different fracking techniques that were piled up on top of that over the years have made a huge difference. I mean, the fracks back then, slotted liners and, you know, slick water fracks, gel fracks. I mean, you know, we're still doing slick water fracks. Matter of fact, I believe, guys, that's what we did on the last 2 wells, correct?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
correct.
So that hadn't changed much, but the amount of sand and the amount of water that you're putting in each stage, I mean, so yeah, the big differences, no doubt, are drilling and fracking techniques. No doubt about it.
It's interesting to talk about the different types that you mentioned. Like, what are, Ryan? Throw us a couple different types of what he's talking about, or Steve. How many different types of things we got going on here? Types of fracks.
Well, I mean what Tom talked about a little bit too. I mean, early on, I mean, the frac techniques that we're using, in all honesty, are, I mean, they've been around. The actual fracking has been around forever in our vertical wells. The things that have really changed the game in the horizontal is being able to isolate these fracks. Like Tom alluded to, you know, early on we would drill wells and we'd shove a slotted liner down in the well, and then we'd frack the whole thing, and then you'd only get a portion of that lateral. With the plug and perf techniques that we have now, it allows us to take, like what we did in our last 2 wells, about 175 feet sections of horizontal wellbore, and we frack each one of those. You know, and then being able to, you know, the other side is just with the downhole motors we have now. That's the big change on the horizontal drilling that has allowed us to continue to get, you know, longer and longer laterals. Because before, when you basically just had to do it at the rotary table and rotate the way we were doing, I mean, if we got 500 or 1,000 feet out, we thought we had a good horizontal well. So, yeah, it's, like I said, it's old technology used in a different way. And Ryan, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I mean, that's a great summary of it. I mean, it's the materials are all the same. It's how we use them, and the physics is really the same. It's just how we do it.
How you do it. So that's what's changing. And I'm gonna see if Kelly will let me. I want to see if I can steer. You think Jay will let me steer one of the wells?
You need to ask Mark. Mark's our drill steer.
Yeah.
I can jump on that video game.
That's right.
Just kidding. Obviously, no one's gonna let Rachel.
I'll get you some seismic that you can look at while you do it.
That's
Yeah,
right.
maybe I can get involved in the seismic for sure. Maybe that's more my speed. But yeah, definitely technology has helped change. So let's talk about the depths a little bit, and anybody can kind of chime in on that because I think that is really interesting. Maybe if one of you guys want to give a comparison in the depths of wells that were drilled and that are being drilled now, and maybe just give people kind of an understanding of that in a better way. Is that somebody want to volunteer to talk about the different types of depths we use?
Well,
Well,
I mean,
Go
I
ahead.
can
Yeah,
I
go
can
ahead,
speak
Tom.
about our current fund. I mean, we have some fairly shallow wells in the Permian Basin with our Hockley County wells. You know, that San Andres Formation has been around forever, and it's relatively shallow. I think it's what, guys, 2,500, 3,500 feet deep. Am I
Yeah,
right?
I think it's pretty, it may be a little deeper than that, but that's
Yeah,
pretty close. Yeah, it's
yeah.
much shallower than what we were
And
talking about.
that's probably about as shallow as you get in in the Permian Basin, and it's just like a big layer cake all the way down to 9, 10,000 feet out there, maybe even deeper. And then in our Bivens project, I think we're 8,000, 8,500 feet deep. So, and then Fisher County, I think we're probably about 75, 8,000 feet deep, somewhere around in there. So, you know, and usually I think the deeper you go and the farther out horizontally you get, the more hydrocarbons you're going to get, really.
Well, I think the difference is that when we talk about the depth of wells, there's also a difference in addition to what Tom said between how deep the well is below surface and how long the well is, or how deep we are with quote unquote deep we are with respect to how much pipe is out there to the toe of the well while we drill it, right? So there's the true vertical depth below surface, but then there's also the measured depth of the well. And with these the long reach horizontals that are being drilled, the numbers are getting very large, and but that doesn't mean that we're really at a deeper vertical depth than where we were drilling at 20 or 30 years ago, right? It's the length of the wells and it's the measured depth that's long.
So you're saying that, yeah, it's almost similar. The vertical wells are the same. It's that you're able to go horizontally now and frack in between source rocks. That's into the source rock or between. You're talking about the lateral.
Yeah, and so when you measure out the length of that lateral, you are drilling a well that is quote unquote, deeper or longer, but that's just the measured depth, not really the vertical depth below surface, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or below ground level.
Yeah, very interesting, you guys. So that's something that I know has really changed the game for us, is all the different advancements and being able to drill. And it's actually like a science.
Well, it actually is science.
No, it really is. And I hope that when people are able to watch these, that they actually, I mean, listening to you guys go through this, it's such an articulated process, which is what I love about our team that we have here at King Operating, is you guys have so much depth of understanding and experience. So we have a few more minutes. I want to think about what your favorite well has been in the world, what its name was, and where it's located. Okay. That everybody's got to think for just a minute. Tom gave me one already, kind of. Tom, you got to
Well, I
think of
got another
more.
one.
You got another one? All right, it's going to Tom first. Go ahead, Tom.
Uh, it was a well that we were a non-op partner in called the Beach Grove, actually in Louisiana. I forget what parish that was, but I mean that well free flowed it's probably still going. It was sold out in one of our packages probably 10 years after we were co-owners in it, so to speak. But that well, I just never seen anything like it where it free float. No artificial lift system, no nothing, just free float. And these guys have probably seen a lot of that. I have not ever seen that. And that well just went and went and went in big numbers too, 400 or 500 barrels a day.
All right. That was
So the Beech
Louisiana.
Grove.
And what was the name? I gotta write it down.
Beech Grove.
Beech Grove and Louisiana.
Beech Grove in Louisiana.
All right. Now we're headed to Steve.
Well, kind of early on in my career, when I was working for ARCO, we did a project up in La Plata County, Colorado, just on the northern part of of New Mexico, in the what's called the Fruitland Coal Formation. It's when back probably 25, 30 years ago, the coal seams were really kind of the hot thing in the industry at that point, to where there were actually tax credits. So, we were basically extracting gas from coal seams these are not, out where they outcrop, they might be mineable, but these were like 3,000 and 4,000 feet deep coal seams. And the thing that's interesting about a coal seam is it is full of water. And in order to get the gas out, you had to dewater these coals. And it was kind of a new thing, and it was people were pretty nervous about it. And these were vertical wells. These weren't horizontals. So I have a horizontal story, which was not a good one, especially for coal, not for coal. But basically, I had a well out there. Again, it's like I don't know, probably the Southern U. I'd be lying completely if I could remember. I know it's like the 9-2, and then there's another number for actually the section it was in. But it was a well that sat there for probably 2 years and made about 20 MCF a day of gas, a couple hundred barrels of water. And it just kind of sat there flat. And when it dewatered, within probably 6 months, that well went from 200 MCF a day to 9 million a day. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah, and that's what those wells did. But again, at ARCO, they were, and it ended up being Vastar after we created Vastar. But there was a lot of nervousness at the time because, the science, our curve that we had science-wise, we were kind of first saying, yeah, we're going to be able to dewater these within about 9 to 12 months. But instead, like I said, a lot of them took, a couple of years. But then when they turned around, I mean, that field was phenomenal. And I tell people that for Vastar Resources later on, and then they later on were bought by BP, but the whole deepwater project that we had with Vastar was funded by that field up in Colorado. So
Wow. That's really remarkable. All right, Ryan, you're up.
That is a hard question. There's a lot of memorable wells. There's the first well I was ever on as an intern drilling was the J.M. White something or other. Can't remember the number of it, out in Andrews County. It was a San Andreas well, like Tom was talking about earlier. Shallow, like less than 5,000 foot well. And that was the first drilling operation I ever saw. So that's very memorable to me. Drilled a number of strong wells in King County that I really was interesting early in my career. So those, and then drilling in the Simrit field in Kurdistan was probably the very most memorable. Just wells with massive production capability. So there's a lot of them that I think about. It's hard for me to put my finger on my favorite though.
Ryan, you're very romantic today. Like, I just have to say, like, I love the way we're talking about these wells. I think it's wonderful. And I was going to be upset if no one mentioned a well in Texas, but Ryan went ahead with his first one, brought in Texas to tie it up. And I'm glad to hear that. So
there we go.
Well, you guys, we're kind of running down to the end. So I just want to let everybody know who's watching that we will be back here again at the same time, same place next Wednesday. And of course, visit our website, kingoperating.com, if you want to learn more about what we do here. Of course, you always get to meet our amazing team at King Operating. I tell everybody, if you want to get into oil and gas, make sure that you have the right team, because it is a very complicated industry. It's deep and fascinating, and it's so many different questions that can arise, and you really need people who know what they're doing and have experience doing it. And you're listening to quite a few of them on our team each week to share different information. So definitely reach out to us. And of course, I always like to mention Jay's book, The Upside of Oil and Gas Investing. If you want this, you can go to our website to get a copy of it, or you can go to Amazon.com. It's published by Forbes Books, and it talks more about just who we are at King, who Jay Young is, our model that is definitely different and unique to oil and gas investing. So we would love to have this in your hands. But thank you, gentlemen, today for sharing with me and bringing some, I felt like we really gave the wells a lot of love today.
No doubt.
Yeah. Well, thank you,
Yeah?
Rachel.
Thanks,
Appreciate you
Rachel.
having us on.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us at King Operating, and we will see you next week.